Hello, and welcome to my recap of Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. If you could like, comment, and/or subscribe, it would mean the absolute world to me. But without further ado, here's the video. In my rereading of the novel, I will admit that I forgot quite how complex the world is. Granted, it's not quite as intricate as J.R.R. Tolkien or George R.R. Martin's novels, but it certainly gets up there. The book begins with introducing us to the main character, Bryce Quinlan, and her best friend, Danica. Bryce works for Jessica Roga, a 400-year-old self-proclaimed sorceress, in a gallery where they deal with ancient magical artifacts. In the second chapter, Luna's horn is introduced, which was the object used to close the Northern Rift and banish all the demons back to Hell during the First Wars, and it has been reported as stolen. This horn will be important later on, so make sure to keep it in mind. Shortly after, the pack of devils, including Danica, are seemingly murdered by an unknown demon. Bryce walks in on the scene, and in the aftermath of that gruesome sight, plus the subsequent chase scene, is where we are finally introduced to Hunt Athalar, and that marks the end of Part 1. Part 2 begins with a short 2-year time jump into the future where Bryce is shown to be still under the employ of Jessica Roga. Hunt is given a few chapters in his point of view, and we begin to understand more about him and his tragic past. And as a quick look into Hunt's life and past, we find out that he was part of a failed revolution led by the Archangel Shahar, Hunt's previous lover. As punishment, he and all those who survived were forced into slavery, and Hunt has been passed from Sandriel, Shahar's twin sister, to the Archangel Micah. A witch has bound his and the other angels' powers, which is shown through a halo on their forehead and prevents them from challenging the archangels. But going back to the story, a vampire Maximus is introduced as a previous client of Bryce's who has been killed in the exact same manner as Danica and the pack of devils, despite the 33rd not leaking the details of their death. All of which prompts Micah, the governor and archangel of the city, into recruiting Bryce into investigating Danica's death, as the man who had been convicted, Philip Briggs, turned out to be innocent of that particular crime. I mean, he built bombs and led a rebellion for, and I quote, a global conflict that would cost the lives of millions on either side. So he stayed in prison. Anyway, Bryce agreed to help Hunt find the murderer, and as she does, the summit is introduced. The summit is an event taking place in a month from then, and will have Sandriel, who formerly owned Hunt, in attendance. Shortly after, Rune, Bryce's half-brother, is ordered by the Autumn King, their father, to find Luna's horn. Hunt begins guarding Bryce 24/7, and they have some lovely hate bonding time until Bryce ventures into the meat market to gain the attention of the Viper Queen. The snakeshifter was able to provide security footage of her alibis during the murders of both Danica and Maximus, so is removed as a suspect. Bryce and Hunt continue to go through a revolving door of suspects, each one having a way to prove their innocence, and that leads us to Part 3. Sabine, Danica's mother, reveals that Danica is the one who stole Luna's horn in the first place, and shortly after, Bryce finds a flash drive hidden in Danica's jacket. Danica had apparently been collecting evidence on the dangers the new drug synth can do before her death. Bryce also finally visits with the Medwitch Rune had been consulting about the possibility of someone repairing Luna's horn. The Medwitch heals the cut on her leg that she received 2 years prior from the demon present in Danica's murder and uses the crystallose venom extracted from the wound to make an antidote to synth. Hunt, after seeing the video Danica had saved on the flash drive, tries to abort the plan he had been plotting with Justinian and Victoria, but is unsuccessful, leading him to be caught along with the others trying to purchase synth for a budding rebellion, which cues the start of Part 4. Hunt is being held prisoner, Justinian is bound and killed, and Victoria's essence is trapped in a box and thrown in the ocean. For Hunt's part in the plan, Micah resells him to Sandriel, and while Bryce tries to buy him from her, even offering herself in his stead, she is unsuccessful. The summit commences, and it is revealed that the Medwitch who helped heal Bryce is actually Hypixel, the recently crowned Queen of the Witches. During the summit, Micah leaves to kill Bryce as he realizes the tattoo Danica made Bryce get on her back is actually the crushed remnants of Luna's horn. Micah confesses to killing Danica and the pack of devils, both to Bryce and the attendants at the summit, due to Jessica's cameras covering the gallery. Micah reveals that Danica only stole the horn to keep it from him as she had been growing suspicious of Micah's intentions. Leoba and Bryce manage to trap Micah in the bathroom after he had injected her with synth, and Bryce goes through her ordeal, saving Syrinx. Leoba, realizing that Bryce needed more time, breaks the massive water tank, thereby killing herself and giving Bryce a few extra seconds to assemble the Godslayer rifle, drink the antidote to synth that Hypixel had given her, and kill Micah. Despite his death, all the gates open anyway and demons come flooding in. Bryce makes her way to one of the gates and reveals that she is the true heir to the Starborn Fae and directs her starlight into the gate. She manages to close it, but there are still 6 other gates that need to be closed. Meanwhile, at the summit, Hypixel removes the halo binding Hunt's powers and he kills Sandriel before setting off to save Bryce. He manages to save her from the blast set off by the Ysteri, but is gravely wounded in the process. Bryce, prompted by Danica's spirit, touches the bronze disc that connects all the gates and makes the drop. Bryce's powers are shown to be a decimal point above the Autumn King's, and despite only having Danica's spirit as an anchor, makes it back alive to find out that it worked. Her power, distributed and amplified through the gates, fully repaired the city, closed the portals, and manages to heal Hunt's wounds. The book ends with Regulus, the bright hand of the Ysteri, calling Bryce and giving her a warning to refrain from using her powers in any serious manner or they'd kill her and everyone she loves. Now for some personal comments. I will admit to shedding a few tears when Leoba sacrificed herself. I mean, that level of loyalty and commitment to her friends is just absolutely inspiring. I will definitely miss the fire sprite in the next novel. I think out of all the books Sarah J. Maas has written, this world might end up being my favorite. Don't get me wrong though, A Court of Mist and Fury will forever remain my favorite book of hers, but the world she created in Crescent City just feels far more complex and well-rounded than in her other series. Although that is my current opinion, but will not necessarily reflect how I feel about the series after House of Sky and Breath is released. My only prediction is that Bryce will end up going to war with the Ysteri and finishing what Shahar started. It would make sense for Hunt to continue by her side and reprise his role as general and lover, but with Sarah J. Maas's history of either villainizing or replacing the first love interest, I'm not too hopeful. So if you made it to the end of the video, firstly, I would like to say thank you for listening, and secondly, I hope that you have a gloriously bookish inspired day ahead of you. Goodbye for now.